This chapter, titled Scalp Friction, has a Speed of Sound Sonic cover for the first time since chapter 78. As Saitama crashes through a line of tall buildings, Sweet Mask is watching from the windows across in utter shock at the devastation. Others next to him are screaming and running for their lives. But as Sweet Mask gets closer to the glass, he recognizes Saitama and is even more confused by the situation. He's been pretty interested in Saitama lately, so this will definitely add to that. Saitama catches himself on top of a building and looks absolutely badass as he hits the brakes with his Crocs. He angrily yelled at Tatsumaki, saying that they've gotten too far from their original location and should go back. She's surprised for a moment, but then she lowers her gaze. With a more serious look, she agrees and drops down to where he's standing. As they stand face to face, the height difference is really obvious. The two stare at each other blankly for a while. Saitama takes a sudden calm as a genuine agreement and is surprised by how easily that worked. He tries to remember where they came from, while Tatsumaki looks at him even blanker than before. She quickly grabbed him by the head, dragging him through the air. Apparently, he was pointing in the wrong direction, and it triggered her enough to slide his head along the side of the building. She keeps dragging him along, this time on the pavement, offering to kindly show him the way. Saitama wonders if all this will be bad for his scalp, which only annoys Tatsumaki more since he's not taking her power seriously. But suddenly, Tatsumaki noticed that something was following them. Keeping up with the speed of these two is no small feat, so the pursuer was either a hero or a monster. Running at full speed after them is Speed O Sound Sonic, wearing a menacing smile. Tatsumaki doesn't recognize him, but he's not very interested in her either. He's only after Saitama and throws a volley of shuriken at the two. And not just any shuriken, homing exploding shuriken. The shuriken were flying at full speed, nearly catching up to them as Sonic says they're impossible to outrun. With half her focus on Saitama, Tatsumaki casually takes control of the blades and tells Sonic to get lost. That's followed by her throwing the weapons back at Sonic, shocking him as he narrowly evades. So he has to keep dodging, bending, jumping, and flipping, constantly moving around so he's not hit by them. Eventually it starts getting on his nerves, so he's not paying attention to his surroundings as much. Which is why he didn't see the small white dog nearby that was letting out a smelly turd. Once he stepped in it, his rhythm and perfect timing were completely thrown off. Upon contact, there was a massive chain explosion that surprisingly wasn't as loud as Sonic cursing Saitama. If Speedo Sound Sonic hadn't cooked his monster cell, he'd be much more of an actual threat. Maybe not to these two characters at the top, but he'd probably be close to Flashy Flash level at least. With that over, Saitama notices that they are back at the Hero Association complex. Saitama slips out of Tatsumaki's hold before she can even react. She's completely shocked by this. With a smile, Saitama lets Tatsumaki know that she's free to start rampaging again. Feeling like he's looking down on her, Tatsumaki reminds him that he's the one being tested to see if he deserves to be around her sister or not. She even threatens the possibility of her going all out, specifically telling her to go all out as he balled up a single fist. Tatsumaki had never been underestimated like this before, so she didn't know how to process his words. But it wouldn't take long for her to begin channeling her powers with a smile, a bit more awestruck than upset now. Tatsumaki only recognizes the words of the strong. Even then, aside from Blast, King, and maybe Genos at this point, she doesn't show any respect to her fellow S-Class heroes. Saitama will need to do more than just take and avoid hits for her to recognize his true power. We go back to the scene underneath the Hero Complex where Fubuki disbanded her group. The heroes who went to investigate don't understand the mood and the arguing that's going on, but one guy has an idea. Among the heroes is a former member of the Blizzard group named Needlestar, who is clearly upset. He was kicked out for fighting with them, but they're still arguing among themselves anyway. Part of the group is confused on what to do next, while the rest are annoyed at being pushed aside like that. A blonde guy is so frustrated that he decides it's time to give up, throwing his jacket on the ground to prove his point. On the other hand, he admits he only joined because even weaklings can have it easy in the Blizzard group. A couple more guys we hardly ever see decide they're quitting too. He says he can't deal with the association's dark side, as well as the S-Class heroes treating them poorly. Another man with a mustache starts taking off his jacket, feeling upset about Fubuki's lack of explanation. She just disbanded the group after her sister said they were all weak. Then we have characters like Lily, Eyelashes, and Mountain Ape, the ones who have been around from the start, even back when they tried to fight Saitama and got blown away like dust. Lily rushes over to try and convince the other group members to reconsider leaving. Most of all, she can't stand that they think Fubuki is to blame for this. She even seems to be on the verge of throwing a tantrum. With a serious expression, Eyelashes tells her not to bother. He also realized that Fubuki isn't to blame for the group breaking up. The truth is, they're not strong or reliable enough to protect her, just like Tatsumaki said. The group stands in silence, reflecting on that, feeling shame for where it's left them. But Eyelashes isn't done yet. He strides over to the ladder, climbing out of this underground area. Lily mistakes it for him quitting the Blizzard group when it's obvious he's got a newfound purpose. After he calls Lily an idiot, he tells her he's going after Fubuki. And with more resolve than we've ever seen from him, he tells the rest, anyone who wants to get stronger, come with me. This makes Lily and Mount Nape lighten up like children, glad to have any kind of hope for rejoining Fubuki. So they start climbing up after him. Meanwhile, Needlestar was watching all this unfold and was impressed by their resolve. He knew all along that a bigger group wasn't needed to support Fubuki. They just needed to work on themselves as heroes and fighters. Meanwhile, Fubuki herself is completely blown away. Saitama versus Tatsumaki is taking on a whole new level of destruction as giant boulders spiral through the swirling air, all for the sake of hitting Saitama. Judging for the dents in some of the rocks, Saitama has been leaping around and avoiding many of these attacks, which is probably why Tatsumaki kept adding more things to throw at him. Fubuki can't believe what she's seeing. It's clear to her that Tatsumaki is going way too far. Before Fubuki can step in, the battling heroes fly right past her. And poor King was in the middle of coming over to Saitama's apartment to play video games and instead had to avoid a storm of rocks. He also couldn't escape because the fight made the elevator stop working. And of course, Saitama isn't even home. King frantically tries to get into Saitama's apartment by ringing the bell non-stop, wondering how he's never home at these kinds of desperate times. But just as he said this, Saitama firmly planted his feet on the side of the apartment building next to King. The two are surprised to see each other. After ironically spotting the game-fighting heroes in King's hand, Saitama wonders if that's why he came over. Sadly, he has to rain check since he's pretty busy at the moment. King questions what Saitama's doing. From there, Saitama would casually mention dealing with Tatsumaki, one of the strongest heroes in existence. And with a pulsing vein in her forehead as she races to his position, Tatsumaki shouts out that she can hear him. King is very shocked to see Tatsumaki's sudden arrival. And as she began to land and Saitama avoided her, Tatsumaki's dress started to lift up from the sheer velocity of her movement. Every approaching second made King's eyes bulge out more in disbelief and anticipation. Then, at last, Tatsumaki landed, and her dress went up completely, and she took on her chibi look and was clearly angry. Before, it looked like she wasn't wearing any, but now, Tatsumaki clearly has panties on. The only logical explanation is that when Tatsumaki uses her powers, she also gives herself epic wedgies. As Saitama leapt away, Tatsumaki, still in her chibi form, would fly after him, still a bit exposed. Seeing Tatsumaki's panties changed King's entire demeanor, and got the King engine fired up. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.